Well, good morning, and broadcasting as usual from some part of Lewes, and I've opted to come back to the High Street this morning, where, strangely enough, just for a few minutes, it's quiet. And yesterday I decided to talk from the Peace Garden, and indeed the Peace Garden is very, very peaceful, even though it's only less than 50 yards from the main thoroughfare. And it was built just to make Lewes look pretty, but on a site that had become derelict, just near the castle walls, and which at one time in the 1920s and the 1930s held a wonderful, wonderful dream garden, if you like, a magic circle garden. And it's been restored. And it is very, very calm, and it's very nice up there, and it really is delightful. Keith Hayes reporting to you from Lewes on the south coast of, not quite on the coast, we're about 5 miles inland actually on the River Ouse, but we're almost a coastal town, and in fact in the past have been attacked by the French, who sailed up the Ouse and sacked the town during the 100 Years' War of around the 13th, 14th century. But the reason that I'm a bit astonished this morning is that normally when I sit here, the cacophony of noise is quite enormous, and most of that noise comes from council vehicles, the people collecting the garbage. Their trucks are big, they're ugly, and they're noisy, and there's one now, perhaps you can see it, although I want to be very careful and not burn out the camera by pointing it into the sun. Because it is a rather lovely morning again, very pleasant sitting here. You're not going to get sunburn, but one can't complain about the weather at the moment. It is starting to get noisy again, and I sit here perhaps twice a week and do a report. One of the things that is quite astonishing is the noise factor from buses, cars, lorries, and these abominable garbage trucks the council runs, and all sorts of other vehicles run by the internal combustion engine. Now we're told that all this is going to disappear because we're going electric, and that cuts down the sound levels. So I suppose that in some ways somebody is doing something about the issue of sound. But I think we need to do far more. We get very, very concerned about air pollution, environmental effects, global warming, and so on. One of the things we seem to have ignored is the warnings by those who specialize in sound that this is far more dangerous in many ways than air pollution and some of the other pollutions put together. And yet we ignore it. We keep on finding ways to make sound and bring sound into our conscious. Beep, 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 back up. Get out of the way. I don't have to tell you. And yet, a group of scientists who wanted to make us realize just the problems of sound, have clinical research done, have had tremendous problems in finding cooperation from local councils. A colleague of mine, an ex-journalist, became very interested in this after he got to know a Russian scientist who specializes in sound. And he became convinced, after talking and listening to these people, that indeed sound was a great threat to our environment. So he worked with them because he wasn't a scientist, but he understood that they needed good clinical research, and that they came up with a unique way to fund this, and that is to have a theme park surrounding the research centre. They tried everywhere in the world almost to get land. That's what they needed. They could get the funding from all sorts of people for a theme park, but they couldn't get land. So they tried various places around the world that would be reasonably accessible to people. No point in having a theme park where you can't have people give good access to it, have good access to it. And they eventually opted for the UK, and they have popped around the UK, and one of their funders said, if you can find anywhere in the UK any council, and we're not talking about individuals now, we're just talking about the council, that doesn't want a backhander of some sort, then I will double my commitment to you. Well, they're still waiting for the double, and they're still waiting for a place to set this theme park up. Essentially, they want to build chambers, and you go into a chamber where you would experience the sound as it was in prehistoric times. Almost total silence. Some noise, but the noise would not be deafening, would not be overwhelming. You would then perhaps move into a chamber which would show what it was like when the Roman Empire was on its way. Going on to typical city noises and so on in the 1600s, taking that up to the 18 and the 1900s, and then eventually ending with the noise as it would be in the 20th century. And this would give us a good sample and a good comparison. There's a good friend of mine wandering around this morning. He gets out of bed and enjoys the sun and enjoys people. And I could hear his voice down the road saying cheery hellos to everybody. And that's the sort of noise we should hear first thing in the morning. But the last chamber, of course, would be the deafening noise that we get when we go into some of our major cities and even our towns as they are today. And this would give us a comparison and would be a very interesting theme park that people would pay a few bob to go around. Not a great deal, because the research and the awareness is very important, but it would bring enough money to bolster the clinical research that was going on right in the middle of this. Now, it's a very, very good idea, an excellent idea, and one that really is attempting to help us with something that society, governments, even we have started to ignore, and that is sound. I have some little problem hearing now. Mine has to do probably with age. But I find that I can carry on conversations with people much younger than I, and that their hearing isn't much better than mine. Genetic defects? Well, not everybody, surely. I think that the effect of noise on our hearing has become so great that it has started to impose itself on our bodies and therefore on our minds. One last piece of evidence. We have politicians who don't hear. We have institutions that don't hear. We have sports groups that don't hear. Or is it that they don't listen? For the longest time, I thought we got almost every group in society who don't listen. Certainly don't listen to the people. But now I've come to think that perhaps it's a defect. Perhaps they try to listen and they don't hear because noise pollution has affected one function of our understanding, hearing and listening, beyond repair. Oh, what a lovely way to spend a Wednesday morning ruminating about that. Oh well, until the beginning of the following day, until the beginning of Thursday, let me say goodbye and toodle pip.